Hey everyone, this is Jody Vesley with the Heartway podcast. We're in season 3 doing stories. In the first episode, spoke about my coming to Christ. In the second episode, talked about my calling into the ministry, into the mission field. And this episode is going to be about how the Lord directed my wife and I and my family to Russia. And so I can't say I have a Russian background. When I think of the Bible and I look at the Bible and how God called Paul and set apart Paul, and Paul was sent out, and where he went as the Spirit directed him, to the places the Spirit directed him to. And so I definitely feel like the Spirit directed me to Russia, and I'm going to try to explain how that all worked out. From the very beginning of when I felt that calling to be on the foreign mission field, from that point I started wondering where God might use me, where He might lead me to. I thought maybe would have to do somewhere with my background. I have a Czech heritage, and thought, we could end up somewhere in the Czech Republic or somewhere doing mission work. Honestly, I had and have a heart for unreached people groups, and I thought for us that might look like going to some island somewhere and bringing the gospel to people who have never heard the gospel before, to a group of people who haven't had that opportunity yet. I thought it might be like that, and prayed about a lot of different groups of people, a lot of different places, a lot of different islands. And I think every missionary at some point prays about going to Australia, and God calls some, but He didn't call us there. And it got to the point where it had been a few years. I had been in seminary. It was my last year of seminary, and I still didn't know. It was starting my last year of seminary, and still didn't know where God was leading us to. And I needed to know soon, because we needed to make preparations and start getting ready to go in that direction. And so I think God waited that long for me for a reason. Otherwise, I would have gotten hyper-focused on that place during seminary, and it would have been hard for me to focus on my seminary studies and the other ministry I was doing in churches at that time. And so I started praying differently. Instead of praying about countries that I was interested in or saw potential in, or things like that, I started to pray, and I asked God, what is the place like that you would have me to go to? What does the place look like that you're calling me to? And after I did this, God made some places really, some characteristics of the place really clear in my heart, my mind. A place that had a large population, that we had potential to share Christ with a large number of people too. So that definitely nixed some places. A place that we had the freedom to church plant, that nixed a lot more places. A place that wasn't popular for missionaries. There are some countries that it seems like have a lot of missionaries, and that's not a bad thing. It's just God wasn't leading me to a place like that. And a place that had a large and growing number of atheists. And so the next country I looked at after God made these things clear in my heart and my mind was Russia. And I started noticing these things to be true by Russia one at a time. I also noticed that there were several unreached people groups in Russia. The Russian people in certain parts of Russia were unreached, even though Russian itself is an Orthodox country, and the Bible is available to them to read and to study. There's a certain groups of people that speak different languages as their heart language. They may know Russian, but it's not their heart language, and they do life and with their other language, and they're around people, their own people group. And so they don't fit into the norm of what we think of as Americans when we think of Russians. And so after I felt maybe Russia, I called a mentor of mine, Lynn Rayburn, who I interviewed last season in an episode. I think it's called Nuggets of Wisdom, and it's a good interview. It's a good episode. It's our most popular episode. So if you haven't listened to that and would like to listen to that, I recommend you do so. But Lynn, I called him and I asked him if he knew of any missionaries I could talk to that were serving in Russia, and so he told me about the Plasters and gave me the contact information for them, and so we got in touch with them, and it so happens they were on a furlough and staying about 15 minutes from where we were at that time in East Texas, and so we met them that evening at a Denny's, and I just had 100 questions for him about Russia and about ministry there, and after that conversation I felt like maybe this is probably the place, and so we made a trip there, and after that trip it just was clear to us that that's where God was leading us. And so we made our trip to St. Petersburg or Moscow seemed to be one of the two places that we could go and learn about the culture and language before going elsewhere. When we went there originally, I did not think we would stay in St. Petersburg. I thought God would lead us elsewhere, but God had different plans and opened up doors while we were in St. Petersburg. And so, we went to Russia, we went to St. Petersburg, and it was just, the only thing I can tell you is that it was clear. It was clear for us that that's where God was sending us to. He opened up the doors for us to go there. He blessed our ministry while we were there. Every missionary will have a different story about how God led them to whatever place they served at or are serving at. As a student in seminary, when missionaries passed by, I would ask them, how did you know that God was leading you and calling you to that certain place where you're serving? And they would tell me, and it was always a different story. And so your story is probably going to look different than mine, but I can tell you this, it will be clear to you. You will know that that's where you're supposed to serve. It's not going to be a guess. It's not going to be, well, I just don't know. No, you'll know, and that knowing of the calling is going to help you when things get tough, when things get rough, because they will. There will be hard times to keep you going and thriving and staying in your ministry there until God is done with you in that location, and then there will be another opportunity to serve. And so like what we're doing now with our Russian ministry online. And so this has been really good for me to share this story with you. I hope it's encouraging and helpful to those of you who are maybe looking for where God is leading you in your lives, because I told you about how God led us to the mission work, to ministry, and to Russia. But some of you listening, or maybe you're not in a situation where you're a foreign missionary, or you're in ministry, or you're going abroad, and God guides and directs us in similar ways. We're still going to have spiritual unrest when we're walking with God and not following His will. What I mean by that is, like, you're praying, you're studying your Bible, you're a part of a church body, and you just have unrest spiritually, even though you're doing the things you should be doing. That's a sign that, hey, something is wrong, and God is leading you to do something else. I hope that's been clear through this in the past episode. I hope it needs to be clear to you. And so if you're listening to this podcast today and you're wondering, where is God leading me? I'm not at peace spiritually. I'm doing the things I should be doing, that I think I should be doing, but I just don't have a spiritual peace. Well, pray and keep praying. Talk to to others who who God has led and made clear in their lives what they should be doing. Ask them how they knew. Just in the multitude of counselors, there's wisdom, and so you need to talk. It's wise to talk to other people. Don't hesitate to talk and ask questions. And then if you are at peace with where you're at, but things are difficult for you right now, think back on that calling. Just take a moment and reflect on that calling. What led you to where you are right now? What doors did God open up? What prayers did He answer? In what ways has God used you and blessed the work that you're doing? What ways has that all happened? And I think that's a healthy practice that we need to do. I know a lot of guys going through difficult seasons right now, and we need to think back and reflect on these times. That's biblical. And so I hope this has been a helpful episode to you. I've enjoyed doing it. Next week, we're actually going to get into some of the journey, some of the specifics, some of the difficulties, some of the blessings. And so we're going to go through that for probably the next couple of weeks. I'll divide it up in between going into the ministry versus going into Russia. And so we'll talk about each of those in probably 2 different episodes because there's a lot there to share. And so I look forward to doing those. Thankful for you guys who listen in. Appreciate you guys. If you have any ideas about future podcasts, let me know. I have a lot of ideas for the next several episodes, and so I'm looking forward to it. I enjoy doing these. Until next time, this has been the Heartway Podcast, where we seek to help with issues at the source.